We are in Project 2, Festival Poster, Stage 1, Building Graphic Interest. This is, as a completed piece, something I probably, as a designer, would have actually put together in Illustrator rather than putting this together, building it in InDesign, simply because it's a single page piece, and I usually reserve InDesign for multiple pages. But, it's good to know all of the techniques that are being instructed here so that you can make a good choice on which thing you would rather work in. So we're going to set our workspace up. First of all, make sure that you have downloaded and expanded the concert folder into your WIP folder. You're going to see that there's text, and we've got a couple of JPEGs and a couple of Illustrator files that we'll be dealing with. We're going to create a new document, and we're going to do it as a letter for print. Again, change to inches. The name of this is going to be poster. And I really need you to include your initials or something on here so that when I download these I don't get 3,000 things that just say poster. It's easier to identify instead of me trying to guess. We want to change this to a landscape orientation. We are going to not have facing pages because we don't have more than one page. The margins need to be set to a 1/4 inch all the way around. And my bleed should be set to a 1/4 inch on this particular one. Hit create, and there is our page. The next section is color swatches, and we've had this discussion before. We'll talk about this some more in class. Even if you have your monitor calibrated, which none of us have calibrated monitors, there's going to be some discrepancy between the colors that you see and what they actually print like. Every print designer should have a printed process color chart, which we don't have, and especially you don't have it at home. And if I did have a Pantone chart, just because I held it up in front of the camera for you to see, it's not going to look the same at your house on your monitor as it looks in real person, and from monitor to monitor it's going to change. I have 2 monitors set up here, and the colors shift on those monitors because I can't get them to completely 100% match. So we use the Pantone color charts because we're going to get a consistency out of those charts. Or if you have a printer that's using a different system, you use those color charts because of the consistency in how the ink will turn out. Read the section about color charts. We'll talk about it a little bit more in class. We have the swatches in InDesign that we're going to use to apply predefined colors. The fill and stroke, you can swap the fill and stroke. We've gone over a lot of this. The formatting effects container option is active by default when an object is selected with the selection tool. If a text frame is selected, you can click to format either the color of the text or the color of the container, and you can add strokes to both the container and to the text. Now that is a difference between Illustrator and InDesign. InDesign, it's very easy to put a stroke around text. However, watch that. Don't use that instead of a bold because it doesn't give the same effect. Everything else about the color swatches is pretty much the same as we have in Illustrator. The only other thing that I can think of, and I don't have my swatches open here, but the only other thing that I can actually think of is that for the swatches, the paper thing. There is no such thing as white ink. Well, there is, but it's a specialty ink, and so paper just is a knockout that allows the color of the paper to come through. So even though it says paper and it looks like white, if you're printing something on a yellow piece of paper, wherever you have that white that is paper, you are going to actually see the color of the paper come through. So since we have this open and we're going to be working with the swatches, I am going to go ahead and open my swatches panel. Under color, there it is. And in the swatches panel, if we double click the default blue color swatch, that's this one, there it is, we're going to change the ink percentages to the following. So change the cyan to 70, 80, 0 and 0, I read the wrong line. And now it is a nice custom blue color. And the default red swatch, the cyan 15, we're going to change that to cyan 20%, magenta 100, yellow 100, and black of 10. Now with nothing selected in the layout, if you click the default green color swatch, you can delete that. Just take it and drag it to the trash can. In the options panel, we can also create not just the color swatch, but tints and gradients based on the colors that we have. We're going to create a new color swatch. We can leave this with the color value name, and we're going to make sure that it's a process color in CMYK, and we're going to create 0 cyan, 40% magenta, 0 yellow, with 100% black. Now what this creates is a warm black. It's sometimes called a rich black or a super black because it has another ink on top of the black. Adding cyan would create a cooler black, but this is a rich warm black. Now at the bottom of the dialog box, let's not add this to our CCC library. We don't need that. And we're just simply going to say OK to this, which is, no we're not, which is going to add this. Oh, and I just added it twice. Done. Let me then take this and move this to the trash because I don't need 2 of those. So I closed that by mistake. I do need to go in and do another new color swatch, but this time I am going to change the color type to a spot color, and I'm going to go into the Pantone Metallic Coated. Now the reason for coated is that it is supposed to be on coated paper. There is coated paper, which is the slick stuff like you find in a lot of textbooks, and then there is uncoated paper, which is not slick. It's like writing tablets and newsprint. Newspaper is not a coated paper, and therefore the ink will sink in and spread. These inks are calibrated so that they will work best on the type of paper that they're designed for. This is a metallic coated. It is meant to lay on top of the paper, on top of a slick paper. It will bind with the coating of the paper. It will not leach through that coating. An ink that is designed for the more porous, non-coated paper is going to allow for that ink to soak in. The colors, if you use an uncoated ink on coated paper, is not going to look the same as it does on the coated paper. Likewise, the ink that is created to be on a coated paper, when you put it on an uncoated paper, the colors will tend to mute and they will not be near as vibrant as they should be. They will also run and things get blobby. The color, we have the metallic coated in here, and what number are we supposed to do? We are looking for 8005. This is how our colors are identified as in the Pantone library, is by a series of numbers that will identify what the ink color is. C indicates that it is coated, because you might very well find an 8005 with no C or with a U after it for being uncoated, and that will be a completely different color. So we're going to add this and select done, and you can save this so you don't lose those lovely colors we created. There is a section about color groups. We have created color groups before when we were working with Illustrator. We're going to create the poster background. We're going to pick up the rectangle tool, and yes, the rectangle, not the frame tool. And in the swatches panel, we want the fill swatch on top, and we want to select the cyan 0, magenta 40, Y0, and black 100. So we're picking up the rich black. And then for the stroke, we want to have none. We're going to create the rectangle covering the entire page all the way through to the bleeds. So start at your top corner on your bleed and drag down and cover that whole page with that rich black. In your layers panel now, expand your layers and you'll see you have just that rectangle. Now click to the right of the eye and lock that. We still have the rectangle tool selected. We're going to change the stroke color to the blue swatch, and we're going to change the stroke weight then to 6 points, and we're going to draw a rectangle somewhere on that page. There it is. And in the control panel, we're going to use the top left anchor point on the proxy, and we're going to change the frame's dimensions to the following. We are putting the X position at the minus 0.25, which is going to put that over on the bleed. We're going to change our Y position to 1 inch. The width is going to be the full width of 11.5 inches, and we're going to have a height of 6.5. That's going to put a frame that extends past the width of the layout, so we're going to end up with basically just 2 lines that we're going to be able to see. Back in the layers panel again, we are going to go ahead and hide that rectangle that we have in the background. Click away from the rectangle with the selection tool to deselect it. We're going to again make a new color swatch. So we're going to this time make a new gradient swatch. Click the gradient stop on the left side of the gradient ramp and make sure linear is the type that it's going to be. And for stop color, choose the swatches. It's going to give us the swatch dialog box, and we're going to pick the blue CMYK swatch for the first stop. The second stop, which is on the right, we're going to select that and put in the custom red and name this then blue to red. Click OK.